Have you ever entered a room and felt the energy shift before you said a word?
Konversationsstall.
Eyes glance toward you, then away. Some people smile nervously, others stiffen. You haven't done anything, but your presence has already spoken. You're not imagining it. There is something different about you. You've probably been told, you're too intense.
Too serious. Too deep.
Hard to be around. And maybe, after hearing it for the 100th time, you started to believe it was a flaw. That you were simply too much for this world. But what if the truth is far more powerful? What if that intensity isn't a weakness? What if it's a sign that your soul is rare? Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, once said that the most powerful energies are unconscious. And when someone has done the hard work of integrating their shadow, of confronting the parts of themselves most people deny, it creates a charge. An invisible tension in the air. A presence that feels magnetic and unsettling at the same time. That's what people feel when they meet you. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're real. You don't play roles. You don't say things just to please. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. And that, in a world built on masks and performance, is terrifying. Your aura becomes a mirror. One that doesn't lie. And when others look into it, they don't just see you, they see themselves.
Their wounds.
Their illusions.
Their shadows.
And that's why they react. Some will admire you. Some will avoid you. Some will even resent you, because your very existence reminds them of everything they've buried. But let me be clear, their discomfort isn't your responsibility. Their projections aren't your burden. Your job is not to dim your light so they can feel safe in the dark. Your job is to keep glowing. Now, from a Jungian lens, this isn't just spiritual language. Jung didn't believe the aura was just a mystical halo floating around the body. He saw it as a psychological field, a reflection of how much of yourself you've brought into consciousness. The more self-aware you become, the stronger this field becomes. It's not about being perfect. It's about being whole.
When you integrate your shadow, your pain, your fears, your flaws, you create a kind of psychological gravity.
Others feel that wholeness, even if they don't understand it. And often, it triggers them. Not because you've harmed them, but because your presence breaks the trance of denial.
Think about it.
How many times have you simply been yourself, and people reacted as if you'd challenged them? Maybe they said you were too intense. Or that you take things too seriously. Or that you're hard to read.
All of this is code for. You make me feel so meeting I'm not ready to face.
You didn't choose this gift. But you can choose what to do with it. And the first step is recognizing, it's not about them.
It's about you. Your healing. Your integration.
Your journey toward becoming a whole person. This aura, this invisible force, won't always make life easier. In fact, sometimes it will make you feel isolated, misunderstood, or even punished for your depth. But the truth is, you're not being punished.
You're being called.
Called to step into your power.
To hold space for truth.
To become the person you were always meant to be. And in the next part of this video, we'll break down the psychological anatomy of this aura. What exactly is this energy field? Why does it attract, repel, inspire, and provoke? And how can understanding it help you live with greater clarity, strength, and peace? If you've ever felt like your presence alone changes a room, keep watching. Because you're not too much. You're just waking people up. So what exactly is this thing we call an aura?
Forget the pop spiritual cliches for a moment.
It's not just a rainbow-colored glow floating around your body. According to Carl Jung and depth psychology, your aura is the energetic expression of your inner world. It's your unconscious and conscious mind, broadcasting who you truly are before you even speak a word.
It's not seen, but it's felt. Deeply.
Think of your aura as a subtle emotional field, a frequency shaped by everything you've experienced, repressed, healed, and refused to acknowledge. And the more you've faced your inner shadows, the more powerful this field becomes. You've probably felt it yourself. Certain people walk into a room and everything gets quieter. They don't have to say a word. You just know there's something about them. That's not charisma. That's coherence. It's what happens when someone's inner world is aligned. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Jung believed that when we deny or avoid certain parts of ourselves, our anger, sadness, envy, even our power, those denied aspects form the shadow.
And the shadow does and disappear. It hides. And it leaks.
When you haven't integrated those parts of yourself, your aura becomes fragmented. You might still be kind, smart, or talented, but your energy won't feel stable. It might feel heavy.
Or chaotic. or drained.
And others will pick up on it, even if they can't explain why. But when you begin to do the inner work, when you face the uncomfortable emotions you've been avoiding, your energy begins to change. Your aura begins to stabilize. And something beautiful happens. You become magnetic.
Not in the fleshy, attention-seeking way,
but in the grounded, unshakable way. You no longer walk into a room needing validation. You carry your own validation. And that quiet confidence disrupts the entire dynamic.
People notice. Some feel drawn in.
Others feel intimidated.
That's not your fault.
It's your truth becoming visible. Let's look at a real example. Imagine you've been working on your self-worth. For years, you've battled shame, perfectionism, and the need to please. But now, you're beginning to own your value. You're no longer apologizing for taking up space. You're not looking for permission to exist.
You are.
Now you walk into a meeting at work.
You don't brag. You don't perform.
You simply show up fully, present, grounded, and unapologetically whole. Suddenly, a coworker makes a snide comment. Another seems strangely irritated by your presence.
You re confused. You haven't done anything wrong.
But here's the truth. Your coherence is shaking their illusions. They're still trapped in the need to perform, to please, to chase approval. And you, without trying, are a mirror showing them what's possible, and what they haven't yet faced. Your aura isn't just a reflection of your energy.
It's a challenge to theirs.
And this is where projection comes in, a powerful Jungian concept. Projection is what happens when people attribute their unconscious traits to you. If they haven't faced their own anger, they'll say you're aggressive. If they haven't owned their power, they'll call you intimidating. If they're disconnected from their truth, they'll label you as too intense or difficult. They're not really seeing you. They're seeing the parts of themselves they're not ready to deal with. This is why the more you grow, the more resistance you might face. It's not because you're wrong. It's because you're clear. And clarity disrupts denial. Let me pause and ask you something. Have you noticed people pulling away from you the more you've stepped into your power? Have certain friends or family members reacted strangely when you started speaking your truth?
That's not a coincidence.
That's the price of authenticity. Your aura now carries a frequency that no longer matches their illusions. And unless they're ready to evolve with you, they'll resist you, or even resent you. But here's the beauty, the aura is not static.
It evolves with you.
The more you integrate your shadow, the more your presence shifts from being threatening to transformational. You begin to not only reflect truth but also create safe space for others to step into theirs. In this light, your aura becomes more than a mirror.
It becomes an invitation.
You stop just unsettling others and start inspiring them. Not everyone will accept that invitation. But the ones who do, they'll be drawn to your presence not because of what you do, but because of who you are.
You become a lighthouse. You don't chase. You don't convince. You stand.
And in that stillness, you guide others toward their own integration. So the next time someone reacts strongly to you, take a breath.
Don't internalize it. Observe.
Their discomfort might be the beginning of their healing. And your aura, the reflection of your wholeness, is the silent catalyst.
Let's go deeper.
Why is it that some people, without you doing anything wrong, react to you with hostility, coldness, or passive aggression?
You didn't insult them. You didn't raise your voice.
You just walked into the room. And suddenly, the air shifted. Carl Jung would say, it's not you they're reacting to. It's what you represent. In psychology, we call this archetypal projection. When someone sees you, they're not seeing you as a person. They're seeing you as a symbol, a trigger of something buried deep in their psyche. Maybe you remind them of the authority figure who made them feel small. Maybe your confidence highlights their insecurity. Maybe your silence exposes the noise they can't shut off inside themselves. Here's the harsh truth. Most people aren't conscious of their emotional patterns. They live in what Jung called participation mystique, a foggy, merged state where they don't know where their reactions end and reality begins. So when your presence enters that space, clear, grounded, and aware, it threatens the system. Not because you're a threat, but because you're awake in a room of sleepwalkers. It's like flipping on a light in a dark room. Anyone who's been sleeping will be startled. Some might beg you to turn it off. Others might lash out in defense. But none of this is about you. It's about what your presence awakens. That's why the more conscious you become, the more important it is to develop discernment. Not everyone deserves access to your light. Not everyone is ready for the mirror you carry. Let's ground this with an example. Imagine you've been doing deep emotional work. You've faced your abandonment wounds. You've stopped playing the victim.
You've reclaimed your voice.
Now you reconnect with an old friend, someone who still complains constantly, blames everyone, and hasn't changed in years. You sit down for coffee, and within minutes they say,
You shanget.
You seem different. And not in a good way. They might accuse you of being cold, distant, or even full of yourself. But in reality, what they're really saying is, you've stepped out of the pattern we were both stuck in, and now I feel left behind. Your emotional growth becomes their emotional trigger. Your evolution becomes their perceived betrayal. This is what Jung meant when he said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Sometimes, the other person resists that transformation. They'd rather project their discomfort onto you than face what's inside. This is where boundaries become essential. You are not obligated to dim your light so others can remain comfortable in the dark. You don't have to shrink to preserve old dynamics. You don't have to explain your healing to those committed to misunderstanding it.
It's not arrogance.
It's integrity. You're not judging them, you're honoring yourself. And ironically, by doing so, you create the very space they might one day grow into. Because here's the secret, while your presence can be threatening to the unconscious, it can also be deeply healing, but only if they choose to engage with it consciously. You've probably noticed this too. Some people meet you and feel seen.
Not flattered. Not validated. Seen.
They drop their masks. They open up without knowing why. They trust you, because your presence makes their unconscious feel safe enough to rise. This is the paradox of being energetically awake. You'll repel those who fear truth, and attract those who crave it. You'll lose those committed to illusion, but you'll find those ready to evolve. And in that shift, you'll realize something liberating.
You're not too much. You're not too intense.
You're not too deep.
You're just aligned.
And alignment will always trigger misalignment. So if people start pulling away, let them. If they throw words like selfish, strange, or changed at you, receive them as signs. Signs that your aura is working. It's filtering your field. It's refining your circle. It's preparing you for relationships that are built not on emotional codependency, but on soul-level resonance. That's what Jung called individuation. Not becoming perfect, but becoming whole.
And wen jure wohle, you don't force connection. You become connection.
You don't chase love.
You embody love. You don't seek approval. You radiate truth.
So the next time your presence causes discomfort in a room, pause.
Don't shrink. Don't apologize.
Don't doubt yourself. Just smile gently and remember. This is not rejection.
It's revelation.
You're no longer who you were. And not everyone is meant to follow you where you're going. So what happens after the dust settles?
After the betrayals, the silence, the inner voice?
You begin to notice, something has changed. Not outside, but within.
You don't chase clausura anymore.
You don't rehearse arguments in your head. You don't wait for them to understand. Instead, you sit in peace with not being understood.
You rest in the power of knowing yourself.
Carl Jung believed that transformation begins not when the world changes, but when you stop reacting to it. Because reactivity is how the past holds us hostage. And as long as we're reacting, we're still trapped in the old story. But when you stop, when you break that loop, you don't just find freedom. You become it. This is where the concept of individuation becomes more than theory, it becomes embodiment. You no longer see healing as fixing yourself. You see it as revealing the truth that was always there. You no longer see others as enemies.
You see them as reflections. Some, reflections of your old wounds.
Others, reflections of your new wholeness. You begin to walk into rooms not needing to prove anything, because your presence alone already speaks volumes. Not in arrogance, but in calm clarity. You don't need to correct the narrative. You are the new narrative. And in this space, something powerful happens. People begin to follow you, not because you demanded it, but because your energy gave them permission to rise too. You become a lighthouse. Silent. Steady. Unmoved. And those who are lost will either curse your light, or find their way home by it. This is leadership at the soul level. It's not about influence, followers, or applause. It's about alignment.
You are aligned with your shadow, your truth, your pain, your purpose.
And that alignment is magnetic. Not to everyone, but to the right ones. To the ones who have suffered like you. To the ones still crawling through the dark, searching for someone who made it through and lived to tell the tale. You become that story.
Not a fairytale.
but a real, raw, holy map. A testimony of survival,
Of resurrection.
of self-ownership. And here's the wild part Jung understood deeply. When you reach this level, you start seeing the same people who hurt you differently. Not with anger,
Not with resentment.
but with clarity.
You see their wounds.
You recognize their projections. You understand that they weren't fighting you, they were drowning in themselves. You don't have to let them back in. But you also don't carry them anymore. You've emptied the luggage. And in that release, you become lighter. Not because life is easier, but because you are stronger. This is what it means to rise.
Not louder. Not prouder. But clearer. You don't need revenge. Your life is the proof.
You don't need to explain.
Your peace is the response.
You don't need to rebuild what broke.
Because juve built so meeting better.
You. So if you're standing at the edge of transformation,
If you're still trembling in the quiet after the storm.
hear this.
You are not too late. You are not too broken.
You are not too sensitive. You are exactly where your soul needs to be. And the fact that you're still here
Still healing. Still becoming.
means you're already winning.
Because the real revenge.
Is not destruction. It's becoming untouchable.
Not through walls. But through self-possession. Not through Krage.
But through radiant stillness. Not through proving them wrong. But by proving yourself right, over and over again, by living fully, bravely, honestly. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." And you, dear soul, have awakened.
Let them talk.
Let them watch. Let them wonder how you did it. You don't need to answer.
You are the answer.